there, my name's Gill Tiney. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome back to Being Human, Hidden Depths by Collaboration Global. My name, as hopefully you already know, is Gill Tiney. I am the catalyst of collaboration and I bring together amazing people. And I'm really, really happy. I'm so excited today to welcome back the amazing Nicolette Richer. Welcome back, Nicolette. Lovely to have you. Is it Nicolette or do people call you Nikki?
Yeah, Nikki. I love Nikki as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Nikki
my
works.
daughter. That's my daughter's name. My youngest is Nikki.
And oh, fun. Yeah, Nikki it is then. I love it.
Lovely. That makes me feel very happy. Now, Nikki, when you came on the podcast last time, we were talking about something that I didn't know a huge amount about, but I have delved into your book. I loved it. And I have changed my eating habits. And
Amazing.
I have gone on to find out so much more about how the food we eat
Mhm.
isn't necessarily good for us and how to um, basically treat your body like a temple and feed it all the best things in the world. And some of the best things in the world are the simplest things in the world. So,
Yeah.
um, since we last spoke, which is we worked it out over a year ago, which is crazy, by the way. You've been doing so much. You've been coming up to speed. You've been sharing your message to millions. You are
Mhm.
like an evangelist for good health. So, for those who haven't yet heard the first podcast, and please, I recommend you go back and listen to it. But could you give us a little synopsis of how you got to be so passionate about good food and what good food means? What's your definition of good food to you?
Yeah, those are two really good questions because I was like everybody else. Grew I mean, I shouldn't say that. I should backtrack. I was fortunate to have a mother who grew a garden
Right.
every house that we ever lived in, and she would grow all these beautiful whole foods and then serve them to us. So I wasn't allowed to have craft dinner and Chef Boyardee. I don't know what they have in the UK, but
No.
like all of the processed food that came in a
Yeah.
can or a jar. So I wasn't able to eat that at school. I would go to school with, bread baked fresh and carrot sticks and hummus and
Oh,
um,
wow.
things like that. So all whole foods and fruits and vegetables and whole grains. Um, but my mom didn't really talk about nutrition the way I talk about nutrition in my household with my girls. And she didn't explain what it was for. It was just that's how we ate was from the garden.
Yeah.
So then fast forward in my early 20s, I'm in the environmental sector. So I'm creating, environmental policy in government. I'm working for nonprofits, starting charities, all to do with climate change, all to do with water quality, air quality. And then at the same time, my best friend's dad was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer that had metastasized to his bones.
Mm.
Now, I didn't know that anything about, cancer, let alone the fact that cancer can be reversed.
Right.
And so he wasn't offered any conventional treatment, no chemo, no surgery, no radiation. He was also 72 years old at the time. So he wasn't young-ish.
Yeah.
He was youngish, but,
Mm.
he wasn't a spring chicken. And so then he ended up turning to food as medicine because he wasn't offered any other conventional treatment, but he also wasn't ready to go home and just pack up his things and die. He wasn't going to, and that's what the doctors really told him.
Gosh.
So he went and ended up doing this metabolic nutrition and detox therapy, which what that means is he ate 100% organic whole foods in their whole form and no refined products. So no refined salt, no refined oil, no refined sugar, like really all whole foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, pulses.
Hmm.
And he did that. and he ended up becoming cancer free and living another 22 more years.
Whoa.
He died in his early 90s.
Wow.
So that is the power of food as medicine. Now, I then got fascinated by that. Of course, I had to,
Mm.
I'm a researcher. I'm really curious. I'm doing environmental toxicology work. So the detoxing part was really fascinating for me, but I didn't know about nutrition for chronic disease reversal. So I started looking into it, and lo and behold, I find that diabetes is reversible, type 1 and type 2. I
Wow.
learned that autoimmune disorders are reversible, and I didn't even know anything at the time, like really what autoimmune disorders were, what they, how they affected the system. Mental health disorders are reversible. And then all of a sudden, I started studying all these different diseases, illnesses, and found that they were all reversible. 97% of all chronic diseases are reversible. And then I also found that all our universities knew this. So Harvard University, about 25 years ago, declared 97% of all chronic diseases are reversible. And they also stated that what causes chronic diseases and what can reverse chronic diseases is food.
Wow.
Food is responsible for
Oh,
93 to
wow.
97% of all those chronic diseases. And then there's the other factors like smoking and lack of
Yeah.
exercise and stress, which are big contributors, and intergenerational trauma, which we know now. But diet is responsible for 93 to 97% of all diseases.
And so, of course, when the universities said it, everybody listened and we went, right, we're not going to have processed food anymore.
Nobody. Because the same universities are publishing research that says do keto diet or don't eat potatoes because they're high in so this is the thing is that there's just too much information out there.
Yeah.
And really what we need to do is just go back to the simplicity of it. We need to decolonize our diet. We need to do away with all this processed refined food. And I can share a story if I have time to share a story about
Yeah, go
this.
for it. This is a freebie. Go for it.
So between the time I was on your podcast and now, there was a woman that called me frantic. And
Mm,
she said, "Oh my gosh, I need to meet you. I found out what you do. You reverse chronic disease." And I was like, I'm really too busy right now. I was really in the thick of it.
mm,
Um, and she said, "No, no, no, I'm going to come drive up and see you." So
wow.
she drove 3 hours to come see me. I know, drove 3 hours to see me. And then she told me her story. Her story was that she was hired by all the big food companies, the processed food companies, to make food addictive to children.
Oh, that breaks your heart.
Yes. And her kids were sick, and she
Yeah.
found that the only thing that healed them was getting them off the foods that she had designed to be addictive.
Oh my goodness.
So then she was having a moment where she had to redeem herself. And she's like,
Mm,
I need to learn about this so I can teach this to the world. So she quit her job. And then now this is what she does through her charity.
wow.
But to meet the person, one of the individuals, and there's many of them that get hired by these processed food companies to literally make food addictive to children,
That's wicked, isn't it? What's
right?
wrong with them?
Yeah, and this is the food that is harming us. So the other part to your question
Mm,
is what is real food? My book is called Eat Real to Heal. People say,
mm,
what does that mean to eat real? And it means that we have to decolonize our plates. We need to get rid of all the food colorings, the dyes, the pesticides, the herbicides, insecticides,
mm.
synthetic fertilizers, the refined sugar, refined oil, refined salts. Just do away with all of that. We have to take there's a lot of scientists, food scientists out there trying to figure out how to make food more crunchy, keep the color lasting longer. Because anything that gets packaged and processed, it would really just look like brown mush and it wouldn't be tasty. It wouldn't be appetizing. So they have to add all of these
Yeah.
synthetic ingredients to make it look appetizing and taste appetizing. And we have to do away with that. And we need to go back to eating the foods that already come with their beautiful skins on them. That's the
Mm,
packaging, the skin of the apple, the skin of the potato, the skin of the squash. That's the kind of packaging that needs to come in our food. And we need to eat that with all its vibrant colors, all the
mm,
colors of the rainbow, because those are the foods that have cancer fighting properties, cancer reversal properties, chronic disease fighting properties, and chronic disease reversal properties. And we have over 350,000 available ingredients to us in nature. And right now we're just destroying all of it in favor of producing foods in manufacturing plants when
So
really our food needs to come from nature.
are there people out there that want want to string you up, for want of a better expression, because surely
Right.
if people just eat good quality
Yeah.
food, possibly grown from their own garden or allotment, then how are these people going to make money out of all the drugs that they're selling? I mean, surely you're a wanted woman, aren't you? If you're giving them that advice, and no, you don't need chemotherapy. Go
Yeah.
and eat some apples.
Yeah, well, yeah, so I will touch on the part about chemotherapy. A lot of people think that I'm against conventional medicine, and I'm not.
Right.
Because if you are suicidal and you have suicidal ideation and you don't know that food is medicine. You don't know that psychedelics are medicine. That's another topic we could talk. Those are plants, and they are very, very effective at reversing depression and anxiety and PTSD in just one day of
Oh,
therapy. A lot of people don't know that. But meanwhile, when you actually take an antidepressant, you can increase your chance of committing suicide by 33%. And that's according to the clinical trials. And that's according to the long-term studies. So, but doctors don't tell you that when they meet you for 15 minutes and say, well, I'm going to give you an anti-anxiety med. I'm going to give you an ADHD med. I'm going to give you medications for depression. They don't tell you that. And
yeah.
they often say you're going to be on these meds for life. But
Oh,
what they also don't tell you is most people who don't accept the meds in 1 year, a majority of people will no longer have depression. And that's without taking any of the meds. So they
mm,
find other ways.
mm,
And other ways are number one, nutrition as
mm.
medicine, because your large intestine is responsible for creating 95% of the dopamine and serotonin that your brain utilizes, your feel-good hormones. And the only way to feed the microbiome in the large intestine is through plant-based fiber and plant-based foods. We need nutrients to fuel our brain, to fuel
Mm.
the bacteria in our gut, to create the healthy bacteria that create the healthy hormones and create your immune system, do everything. So, when you ask, so yeah, so I just want to touch on the fact that I'm not against conventional treatments, chemotherapy, surgery, or anything. If that's all you know at that moment in time,
Mm,
it can be the thing that saves your life.
mm.
But does it really save the majority of the lives compared to if we adopt these lifestyle behavior changes and adopt lifestyle medicine, which is eating real foods and obviously stress management, but that's just such a small part of it. Everybody's focusing on stress management, but not focusing on their food.
Mm.
Um, I know you had another question in there that I think I might have. Oh, are people? Yes, are people? Yes. So
Mm.
20 years ago, when I got into this, we would get fake letters from the FDA on in like embossed FDA letterhead
Oh,
telling us to
wow.
stop doing what we're doing. I would get, and those would be sent to our franchisees. I would get there's a lot that happened actually. That's probably for a whole nother podcast. I'm not the only one who gets that as well. I just had Jane McClellan from the UK who wrote the book How to Starve Cancer, and she has lots of stories as well of people trying to do her in with her research and being banned from giving talks at big universities. And this
Crazy.
is like mind blowing because of the fact that all we're doing is presenting data, information, research that is published in medical journals
Yeah,
showing that chronic diseases are reversible using food as medicine. But that's not what is taught to medical doctors. They're not taught that. They get 1 to 4 hours of nutrition training in their entire medical career.
wow. That's, I mean, that's like that, as bad as I don't even know if they get any training in the menopause.
Mhm.
But it's the same along those same lines. It affects 50% of the population, and they don't have a clue on how to, go home
No.
and take this antidepressant, and you'll feel better eventually.
Yeah.
And
And I've
it's
had medical Well,
yeah,
sorry to cut you off. I had medical doctors tell me chronic diseases are not reversible. I was like, have you ever reversed one? Because I've reversed thousands with my
yeah,
clients. My clients are the ones that do it. They just change their lifestyle. They apply lifestyle medicine, food as medicine. They reverse their disease. And the doctors that refer their patients to me, they get to see my clients and their patients reverse their chronic disease. So it's a really fun relationship that we have because
yeah,
they don't know how to take their patients off the meds. They've only ever been taught how to put their patients
yeah,
on medications. So all of a sudden, when their blood levels come back normal and their lab results come back normal, they're like, can I just, stop this medication cold turkey? Like they have to call me to ask me. So it's this
Wow.
in interesting like reverse relationship that we're having. And then it's so exciting and they high five their patients. They're so happy. They're like, we'll do anything for you to get you off. So I have a really good relationship with doctors that have seen chronic diseases reversed and it's so it's changing. It's different post-COVID
Right,
because what we saw during COVID around the world individuals that already had diabetes, high inflammatory markers, heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. These are the individuals that are the ones that died from COVID
right,
because COVID pushed their inflammatory markers and their cytokine markers so high, damaged their heart muscles. You cannot have acute inflammation like that in your body caused by COVID on top of chronic inflammation and
right.
expect to survive. It's too much for any one body. So COVID was actually a blessing in disguise. It was sad that so many people had to die like that, but it showed everybody around the world that we can't just manage these chronic diseases. We have to reverse them and get rid of them entirely. Because if there was another COVID, it means millions and millions more get killed instantly. And it's because their doctors are not trained in telling them how to reverse chronic disease. That
Yeah.
is the real reason why COVID killed so many people.
So if somebody has a chronic disease, obviously they do get desperate and they will try anything. But a lot of people see medication from their doctor, that man in the white coat that they can trust, as their crutch, and they're very they don't want to let go of that, or they don't want to trust somebody else who's giving them such supposedly simple advice. How
Yeah.
difficult have you found it with your clients for them to change the way they live and the food that they eat? Is it difficult for them to kind of
Mm.
find the right food, or is it massively expensive to go from processed food to, cooking your own meals and rather just
Yeah.
in the microwave?
Yeah, really good questions. So let me touch on the price first,
Mm,
because that is a lot of people think it's so expensive to
yeah,
go plant-based whole food. And that's how, so, and I have to mention what I teach is plant-based whole food chronic disease reversal. Because if we have a lot of animal products in the diet, we can't reverse it. It's so difficult to reverse the disease. You can stop the symptoms,
mm,
but it's not a sign of true chronic disease reversal. So, and I'll give an example of this. When somebody has diabetes, type 1 or type 2, my clients get to eat potatoes every day, squash every day, high carb foods every day, and reverse their diabetes. And they'll need 50% less insulin within the first few days of starting our therapy. And every few days after that, 50% less. So by the time 7 to 30 days is up, they can be off all their insulin, off all their medications, and they can have high carb whole foods.
right,
Okay, and not spike their blood sugars. And this is because we've been teaching people that sugar causes diabetes. Sugar does not cause diabetes. High animal fat products and animal protein products destroys the kidneys and fills the intestine or the arterial lining with plaque, and that prevents blood sugars from the potatoes and all the beautiful things.
mm,
Um, and the insulin from crossing over and getting into the tissues that need the insulin and the glucose. So it is more like we're putting up these barriers with these animal products. So when people go on keto for diabetes, they can't have potatoes because the minute they eat a potato, their blood sugar levels spike.
right,
So that's why they're taught to go on keto because your blood sugar levels won't spike because you're not eating any high carb foods. But you can't stay on keto long term. It causes significant clinical depression, further obesity down the line. Like it's the long-term studies on keto are horrific. So so when we reverse chronic disease, a lot of people will say, oh, it's so expensive, but it's actually so inexpensive because of the fact that you're eating potatoes, squashes, carrots, oats, oatmeal for breakfast, all these beautiful whole grains that are generally really inexpensive. Like you could buy
mm,
a big bag, a 25-pound bag of thick organic rolled oats for $27.
mm,
Right? So this is not expensive and you can use that bag to feed your family every day for breakfast. But if you're buying expensive eggs, like we just bought eggs the other day. We have eggs in our household. We eat them every once in a while. Because I have 3 kids in the house and I've been sort of playing around with them a little bit now. But the thing is, they were $10. for a
Whoa.
dozen eggs. So, and then if you want to buy an expensive bottle of olive oil that's actually good, that's real olive oil, that's not
Hmm.
canola oil mixed with olive oil, you're sometimes spending $20 to $30 for
Yeah,
that.
easy. Yeah.
But you can have that stuff when you're trying to reverse chronic disease because it makes it harder to reverse your chronic disease. So when we take out all the refined processed food, all of a sudden food becomes inexpensive.
Yeah. It
And
just,
this is why you don't see studies done on carrots for chronic disease reversal, because every study is a business case for how they're going to get the money back to pay for that study. So you're never going to make money off selling carrots and potatoes.
mm,
So often these studies never actually get conducted, though we know the cancer fighting properties of potatoes and carrots and squash with those who have been studies in the lab. But as far as, really double-blind placebo trials, like nobody's going to fund $50 million
no.
trials
Yeah,
on
yeah.
potatoes and carrots. So price wise, a lot of people, most of my clients say that it's actually depends what they were eating, before. If they're
Mm,
really eating the lowest price processed food products, yes, there's going to be a tiny bit of a price increase, but generally, no. Now, on the other side is how hard is it to do this? And it's because of the time and the knowledge in the beginning. So most people that come, I shouldn't say most, but a good majority of clients that come and work with me and come and do our retreats and they used to come stay at our wellness center, we would have them do all the cooking. And so all the ingredients would be on the counter and in the fridge, and then we give them recipe cards, and then they would have to go get
mm.
the ingredients, whole
Yeah.
food ingredients. Well,
Nice.
they had never cooked oatmeal before. They had never held a potato in their hand before. They had never seen a
Oh,
cabbage
you're
before.
kidding.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So there's the learning curve of learning how
Mm.
to cook with whole foods, but that's easy because all you need is a cutting board and a knife, and you
Yeah.
can do it all. Just two kitchen pieces of kitchen equipment. Then it's learning how to prepare the food so you're not destroying the nutrients, and that's what we teach, so the nutrients stay in your food. Then, of course, there's the palate. You need to adjust your palate because we're not using the refined sodium, refined oil, refined sugar.
Yeah.
So it takes about 3 weeks for my clients to regrow their taste buds. So when they eat a tomato or carrot or cabbage or potato, they actually like love the flavor because we have to override those addictive. We
Mm.
talked about that earlier, that the scientists that made the food addictive, your taste buds have come to enjoy those addictive chemicals. And so we need to rewrite that. So there's the labor. Like now you can't just go and get a box of macaroni and cheese out of the cupboard. You actually have to chop a potato. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of muscle strength there. You have to go get the groceries. You have to carry them in the house, which is good because that's good exercise. You need to wash them, chop them, put them away in the fridge. So it's not as easy as, TV dinners and processed food. So there is that learning curve. But once people get it, they love it because they never need to follow a recipe ever again. They
Mm.
learn how to cook intuitively. They can purchase what's in season. They can purchase the foods that are like overgrown in abundance. And so those become
Yes.
cheaper. And so you eat more of that when it's readily
Yeah.
available. So yeah, so there is that initial learning curve, but all my clients get through it and then they love it and they never go back. My clients don't go back to the old way.
Why would you? Because you're poisoning yourself, which just feels so wrong. And also, when you are cooking a meal, whether it's peeling a potato or, I mean, obviously, you would say that you'd leave the skin on because that's where a lot of the nutrients are. But
Exactly.
whatever you are doing with the food that you are cooking, it's a kind of a meditation. It's a kind of a bit of peace, a bit of
Mm.
space from the busy work life that we have, and then you can come
Yeah.
back. And if all you're doing is coming in from the office or wherever you work and shoving a meal in the microwave that pings 5 minutes later, and then sitting down eating it, you've not given your body and your mind chance to unwind and just
Yeah.
focus. And mindful eating, it's being able to realize that what you're putting into your body is enriching every part of you, every single part of
Exactly.
you. And I think once you've got in that habit, which, as you say, 3 weeks is nothing, is it, to start the
Yeah.
ball rolling? And
Yeah.
you imagine all these people that have been on a diet here and a diet there and tried this and always put on more weight in the end because they're back to that addiction.
Yeah.
Once they understand that you don't have to go back after 3 weeks and your taste buds have changed, why would you let your taste buds go back to that unless you're still
Exactly.
craving that thing that you were addicted to? But sometimes that's just habit. actually having that craving in your stomach. You're like, no, I'm okay. But your mind is going, yes, but this time of day I have a biscuit with my cup of tea. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to get out of those mental habits, don't you, rather than the physical craving.
Yeah.
So people come to your retreat, and
Mhm.
since we last spoke, you have been so busy creating something that is so incredible that I can't wait to go for sure.
Yeah.
But tell us about the hotel.
Oh, the hotel. Um, yeah, it's exciting. And it just took a new twist this morning. My partner and I, when we woke up, we were discussing, we're still piecing it all together, but we just came out with another really beautiful element of the hotel. So I'm going to save that for the end. I'm so excited to announce
Okay,
this.
that sounds brilliant.
So we've been running restaurants for the last 13 years, 12 years, 12, 13 years.
Mm.
And before that, I started my digital education company and my health consulting company, which I've had for 20 years, Richer Health Consulting. So we had Richer Health Consulting, which teaches people how to reverse their chronic diseases and mental health disorders. Then we had the restaurants, which are all 100% organic, plant-based, whole food, which we just closed the last one this weekend so that we can pivot to focus on the hotel
Right.
and then reopen the restaurants within the hotel model. And then I had started wellness centers as well. So we actually had a formal wellness center that we ran for 4.5 years. So that's where a guest would come to do our Eat Real to Heal retreats, and they would learn about how to reverse their chronic disease and then go home with all the knowledge and implement it. So we've had these three different businesses that are now amalgamated into one, which is this hotel model.
Lovely.
So that means you can come to the Cowichan Valley on Vancouver Island where it's being built, and you can come stay in this hotel, and it's a stay to heal model. So you can book as many nights as you want. And when you arrive at the hotel, you're immediately given your beverages and your food and the environment and all the education and training that teaches you how to reverse your chronic disease while you get to relax and just take in the information and have all the food made for you. You
Wow.
can participate in the cooking classes, but you don't have to lift a finger. You're just here to absorb the information and go through the transformation. So all of our team members that work in the hotel, from the concierge to the cleaning crew, they are going to be trained in this therapy so that anybody can ask them questions about the
Mhm.
science of the therapy,
Lovely.
right? And the therapy is just really decolonizing our plate, getting rid of all this processed food, refined food. So you're only going to be able to get organic, whole foods in their nutrient dense form that's grown by the local organic farmers. All of our restaurants were supplied by local organic farmers, which was amazing. And then in the off season, we would get it from organic farmers in other parts of the world. But for a good majority, many months, it was the local organic farmers who are the real superheroes of the world, who are the real
Yes.
pharmacists, who are the real doctors of the world, the real
Yeah.
healers, are the people who are growing our food. So the hotel, that's the model. There's going to be a psychedelic therapy section of the hotel. So, where people with depression, anxiety, PTSD, intergenerational trauma can come and do plant medicine as well as being able to access nutrient dense food and then do their detoxification. Plus, they can access acupuncture and, you know, other health services and the spa and everything while they're there. But everything is meant to support you in reversing your chronic disease and providing you with the knowledge and information. So that's the hotel model. There's other centers like this around the world. They have really long wait lists
Mm.
to go. And that's because they run as retreats. So you have to wait for a date to be available and, and they're always full. And they're very, very expensive as
Mm.
well. So many of them are anywhere from like seven to $17,000 US to stay for a week. They're very
Wow.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's they have a full medical team, they have all of that. But we have a medical team. So our anybody who comes and stays at the hotel can get access online to a medical doctor who is a chronic disease reversal doctor. But we don't have to fund the hotel and fund their positions every single day like
Mm.
some of these other centers, because when you use food as medicine, it is very easy to reverse chronic diseases. Okay. So the center has everything. Um, Now with the hotel, it's a very sustainable model because you can come to the hotel and just stay there. You don't have to partake in like learning about chronic disease reversal, or you when you arrive and you learn that that's what we do, you can upgrade. And it's very affordable as
Mm.
well because you're already buying food when you're on vacation. So we just include that cost into the stay. But the difference is you're not going to get food that harms you. You're
Yeah.
only going to get food that heals you.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Now, the other thing about our hotel, and this is the piece, the missing piece, we live in a community where there's a lot of addiction,
Hmm.
a lot of trauma, intergenerational trauma. There's a high population. Well, I mean, we are on indigenous lands as well. So we have the Cowichan tribes, which is the largest indigenous tribes in all of Canada. And so we're going to be working with the underhoused population as well as the Indigenous community here, and to be able to offer our services and our products in the hotel stays at either affordable rates or to be able to comp the stays entirely to support individuals who cannot afford to stay at our hotel. And we do that because we have a charity, we have a nonprofit organization. So the two work together where foundations and individuals can provide donations through the charity, and then that offsets the stay for individuals who are suffering with addiction and under in the underhoused population
Wow.
and the local indigenous members as well that often suffer from higher rates of chronic diseases as a result of being forced to consume a colonized lifestyle.
Yes. Yes. Because that's not, yeah. You can see it going round and round in circles, can't you? And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
incredible. Gosh, so I'm just thinking there's so many questions. So many questions.
That was a lot that I just, yeah,
Yeah, I
I just
mean,
shared.
so for the individual who hasn't had an opportunity to learn about the foods, or is there a safe bet way of kind of going, well, I'm going in the right direction? So obviously, processed foods, we know about that. It's like, a loaf of bread. If you read the instructions, I mean, what should be in bread? Flour, yeast, water, maybe some salt. But you look at them, it's like all these other ingredients, which is why it can stay fresh on the shelf for weeks. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we know, I mean, normally, I say not everybody, but most people know that's not a good thing to put in your body because of all the chemicals that go with it. I think there was a guy called Michael Mosley. I don't know if he came across the pond, a scientist who would have regular TV shows talking about processed foods and what was good for you. Sadly, he died last year. Um,
Oh,
yeah, he just went for a walk and it was too hot, and he lost his way and he died in the sunshine. Uh, I
oh,
know it was absolutely tragic, but he would also be saying to people, just look at the ingredients. And he said the first three or four will be names that you recognize. He said, we
yeah.
all know that the majority of the food is the first one. So if you see sugar at the beginning, don't eat it. If you see salt at the
Mhm.
beginning, don't eat it. If you see carrots or whatever, then that's okay. But after that, if you don't recognize the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, don't eat it. So in other
Yeah.
words, if it's sealed and it's wrapped, don't eat it. If it's go to your vegetable, and go organic. So there are lots of organisations in the UK, like I will give them a plug. We use Riverford Farm, which is a farm that started in Devon as
Mhm.
organic before organic was popular, before it was
Mhm.
really known what the difference was. And they have grown enormously around the country, and they will come and deliver your stuff. So although it's not coming from Devon to everywhere else, they then employ other farms that grow things in the same way that they grow things. So they're all organic, and they make sure that you're on their road. So it's like if you say you want them to come and deliver, they'll go, well, have we got a farm near enough that can deliver you
Mhm.
stuff that's in season for the right amount of people in your house? And then they just come and they leave it on the door, and it's lovely. And you come home and you go, oh, what have we got? It's like Christmas once a week. Um, so you don't have to worry about going into a big supermarket and seeing your bananas wrapped up in plastic, or
Right.
all of the usual things that. And I mean, many years ago, people realized that apples had been doused in something to keep them preserved so they could last for a year or more.
Exactly.
So we kind of know the trail that we have to go. Is there
Yeah.
something that most people go, that's fine, surely?
that you realize is actually quite harmful that most people don't realize?
Yeah, so it's interesting because a lot of people, when they learn about this, they'll ask me questions like, can I eat celery? Or can I eat potatoes? Or can I eat X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
And when it is, and the thing is, a lot of people think because it's natural and grown in nature, it's good. But, there's certain mushrooms, if you ate them, you would die. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to be mindful. So I'll never be the one to say because it's natural, it's good.
No.
And also certain foods need to be cooked because if you eat them raw, then there's natural poisons in them, right? That can upset your tummy or make you sick. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that just because it's natural, it doesn't mean it's good. But the thing is, we now have enough information that we know it's a good idea to cook your potatoes. It's a good idea to, eat certain things raw, eat certain things cooked.
Right.
So, but there's 350,000 edible plant species on the planet. Like dandelion, every part of the dandelion is a cancer fighter.
Really?
High amounts of cancer fighting properties in dandelion root, dandelion tea, everything. Same thing. There's so many plants out there like that. Lamb's quarter, so nutrient dense, so much vitamin C and other important, but we mow over that on our lawns because we think it's a weed. Everybody thinks it's a weed. So we should be picking it and making salads out of it and steaming it and eating it. So 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 when it comes to the flip side of that, so that's on the, natural
Yeah.
foods that are grown in nature, then people will often ask me, well, can't I eat, it says it's organic, it says it's whole food, it says it's,
Yeah.
but if it's packaged, processed, so it's really simple. I say if it comes in a bag or a box or a can or a jar, do not eat it.
Oh, okay, that
Because
is simple.
it's the easiest way is go to the farmer's market, eat
Yeah.
everything at the farmer's market. Go to
Right.
the produce section. Like if it's in the produce section at your grocery store, it's safe to eat. They
Right.
wouldn't be selling it if it was going to kill you. So you are lucky that somebody else has already deciphered what is safe and what is not. All the mushrooms, all the everything, safe to
Right.
eat at the grocery store.
Right.
So that's the easiest way. Now, and you can take it a step further. If the potatoes come in a plastic bag and it's a single ingredient, I always say buy something that has one ingredient, not three, not two, not seven.
Mm.
And then that makes it easy. So you know exactly, that you're eating foods that most likely will reverse your chronic disease. So when it has one ingredient like rice, quinoa, rye, bulgur, then that's great. Now you don't want to buy the processed version. So when you were talking about bread,
Mm-hmm.
our restaurants, we would take rye grains and bulgur grains and buckwheat groats, and we would grind them into flour and then make our pancakes or whatever we needed to make with it. So that means you're getting the whole food. If I were to buy the rye flour has been denatured. In most cases, it's not stone ground, even though many bakers now are going back to the old way of stone grinding their grains because that leaves the germ, the bran, everything, all the nutrients in. It's going to make for a denser bread. It's not going to be like bread, squishy, can squish a whole slice up into a little ball and pop it into your mouth. It's going to be dense. It's going to require some jaw strength to get through it. That's when you talked about the bread, for example, making the bread, we have a salt-free bread recipe that our clients make, and it's made with whole grain rye flour that's ground down from whole grains, and then molasses, and then it's made. There's a few other ingredients, but there's no salt, and it's important for everybody to remember because I do this at medical conferences or when I'm teaching physicians, I'll often say, "Can anyone tell me what kind of salt is good for you?" And the doctors will answer, and the physicians will say Himalayan crystal
Oh
salt.
yeah.
But the thing that most people are scientifically illiterate, and that includes medical doctors, because
Gosh.
they race through their sciences to get through med school, because to pass the board exams, they needed to be able to diagnose the disease or illness or injury, and they needed to know how to treat it.
Yeah.
That means treating it with a medication or surgery. Okay. They're not taught in medical school how to reverse the chronic disease.
Um,
So they forget the science. And I've had doctors say, oh, once I learned the science, I just forgot it. It's not important. But it is critical. This is what's so important because in our pre-med courses, which I took when I thought I was going to go to med school, it explains why our body needs nutrients.
yeah.
So, so this is really important. So when it comes to reversing the chronic disease, we can't ask if a processed food or refined food is good for you.
Hmm.
Because if it's processed, if it's refined, there's a 99% probability that it's been denatured, the nutrients have been taken out of it. And it's what keeps it shelf stable. Because if we left the whole beautiful fats in there that naturally occur in all foods, because fats are a building block of life, if we didn't denature the protein, if we didn't denature everything, then it wouldn't be shelf stable.
No,
So
no.
if it can be on a shelf for more than a day or two, it's probably not good. If it doesn't, if it can last in your fridge forever, it probably is not good for you.
Yeah.
So it makes it easy so that your fridge becomes a place where you just open it up and it's just like a rainbow color of vegetables and fruits. And then your cupboards are very simple, very, very simple. But you could have like 10 different whole grains, 10 different pulses so you can mix and match, right? It's always fun to like rice and mung dal and then put some vegetables in there and then have some fruit turned into a beautiful dessert for dinner if you like dessert, things like that. So it actually makes it really, really, really simple, but you'll never have to ask, is this good for me again?
Yeah. So, in answer to the question that you said, is salt good for you? What salt is good for you? The answer
Mm,
is
sorry, I did jump around. Is salt So there's many different types of salts. And this is the thing is salt is a compound that gets created when more than one chemical is mixed together. That actually is what salt is. So magnesium chloride, magnesium stearate, those are different types of salts.
Mm,
Sodium chloride is one type of salt. So most people never answer with the biochemical term, but sodium chloride is so damaging to our cells. And that is what we're putting, that's our table salt that all chefs, they put it on, they soak your food in it, then they cook the food and add the salt, sodium
yeah,
chloride, and then they put it on just before they serve it to you.
yeah.
So in processed food, they use 5 different types of salt minimum to preserve your food. And these salts are so harmful to your body, they damage your cells and make it so your body cannot eliminate waste and it cannot absorb nutrients. And this is the premise of chronic diseases, nutrient deficiency and toxicity, and it's directly caused by the processed refined salts that we're using to preserve our foods and the processed refined oils that we're also putting on our foods.
Mm.
Does anyone know a chef out there that doesn't use those? In fact,
No.
most chefs are trained on how to use butter, salt, sugar, and flour to create most of your food.
Yeah.
So, really, alongside the doctors who are telling us chronic diseases are not reversible, because that's what they were taught, and then chefs who are basically taking gorgeous, like all these chefs that have these gorgeous organic produce that come into their restaurant, and then they douse them in refined oil, salt, and sugar and flour because they're trying to make it really tasty for you. So you pay $43 for that meal and they're really just killing you
Mm. Oh,
slowly, one meal at a time. And they don't even know that they're doing it because chefs really need to be trained in chronic disease reversal as well because they have the power alongside the farmers who grow their food in, organic, beautiful, natural fertilizer and rich soil. They have the power to reverse all chronic diseases on the planet.
mm, mm. What a powerful thought that is. Um, and yet such a simple one as well. That kind of
Mm,
you're not asking them to do something crazy because one of the things that I
no.
found when you told me about cooking low and slow is the
Yes.
flavor that comes out of the food as a result of doing it. You
Yeah.
don't need to add all the other stuff in because I mean carrots just blew my mind. I was like, I can't believe that. So you had a convert over here when you told us about that one. It was just amazing. Um, I know you've gone back into plant-based food. So are you recommending generally a vegan diet is the best one for everybody? Or do you say, depending on where the meat comes from or how it was reared, or it's just meat and no no?
So yeah, really good question. So if someone doesn't have a chronic disease, and I really need to give the definition of what a chronic disease is
Mm,
because so many people, I'll say, "Oh, do you have a chronic disease?" And they'll say no. So then I ask the next question, "Are you on any prescription
yeah,
meds?"
yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh yeah, blood pressure lowering meds, da, da, but I don't have high blood pressure." Well, you don't have high blood pressure and you don't have high cholesterol because you're taking the prescription meds, right? So you have a chronic disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, stroke. Well, stroke is an acute condition, but
Yeah.
the high blood pressure, high cholesterol contributes to that. Autoimmune disorders. If you have depression, anxiety, that is a chronic disease.
Mm.
If you have um, I'm trying to think, like multiple sclerosis, that's an autoimmune disorder, that is a chronic disease. So scleroderma, like I mean, I can name 150 different chronic diseases. Migraines, if you get more than a few migraines a year, that to me is a chronic disease.
Okay.
If you get chronic headaches continuously, so it's something, it's an acute
Mm.
inflammatory response that is stays, and then it creates all these conditions. So so people need to understand that just because your medication is masking your symptoms, you still have the chronic disease. Okay.
Mm.
We can
Yeah.
all agree on that.
Yeah.
So, um, oh my gosh, I forgot your question, Jill.
Ah, yeah, about the meat basically. Is a
Oh, yes.
vegan diet the best diet to go for?
Right. So I really, really, really despise, I was going to say hate and despise the word vegan.
Mm.
And the reason is I can go to the local fast food joint and get vegan burger, vegan fries, and a vegan Coca-Cola or whatever beverage, pop, of some sort. And that's considered vegan. But there's no health in that
No,
whatsoever.
no.
Okay. Or I can go to the store and buy all the vegan food that's packaged and processed, and that also will not reverse the chronic disease at all.
Mm.
So I like organic. Now, when I use the word organic, it doesn't have to be certified organic if the farmer's not spraying, okay? And if the farmer is tending to the soil quality.
Mm.
So a lot of people get hung up on like, oh, organic certification, it's not really the best. Well, it's actually better than having a farmer stand out there spraying synthetic pesticides and glyphosate on their fields.
Mhm.
So it actually is the better option. And sure, nothing is going to be 100% amazing until we eventually have that tipping point and we go back to farming in sustainable ways through biodynamic farming and permaculture farming and so on. So, vegan, don't love the word. So, organic, naturally grown, plant strong, whole foods. So, the food has to be in its whole form, not denatured like we talked about. That is the diet that reverses chronic disease fast. In fact, if anybody's listening to this and you have type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes or heart disease, or I should hold off on the type 1 diabetes because we have to make sure you have one beta cell left in your pancreas for me to say this. But if you have one beta cell, and it's a simple test that we can send you for, we can reverse your chronic disease guaranteed
Gosh.
if you adopt this lifestyle.
Mm.
And I know it because my clients have reversed some of the most advanced stage chronic diseases using this therapy. And every time a new client comes along and does it, they reverse their chronic disease. The only difference is whether you're going to um, do the therapy or not do the therapy. That's it. And it doesn't matter if you're black, you're white, you're brown, you're indigenous. It doesn't matter because our bodies are all built the same way. We're
Mm.
99.9% or 99.7% identical. We all need nutrients. Our bodies do not need toxins. That's what this therapy does. And when you do that, it's almost impossible to not reverse your chronic disease. Cancer is another little beast of its own
Mm.
because this is when your own DNA gets mutated, your genes get mutated and creates a new entity in your being, a living entity that is striving for a different kind of nutrients. So that one, if you let it go too long and it ends up becoming like stage 3, stage 4, we can still reverse it sometimes, but it's not always guaranteed if
Yeah.
you let it go too far where the tumors have invaded the other organs. Most people don't die from cancer. They die because the cancer stops their organs and other body systems from functioning. It's a little invader that gets in there and cuts off your blood supply, twists your bowel, things like that. So most
Mm.
people are not dying from the cancer. It's from what the cancer has done to your beautiful body. So don't let it get to that point. But most people who do our therapy, they wait till they hit rock bottom. And then that's when they go, oh, I think I'm ready to try food as medicine. But that
Mm.
should be the very first thing we start with because it is the only thing we start with as a baby. We
No.
don't give newborn babies, processed refined food. We
No.
don't we give them breast milk, hopefully formula. If breast milk, it doesn't, it's not an option. And then when we start feeding babies, what do we feed them? Bananas, oats, rice porridge. right? Like carrots, mushy carrots,
Yeah.
really easy to digest whole foods. Nobody's putting salt on baby food. In
No.
fact, there was the UK that decided to feed their 6-month-old soda crackers, and the baby died because there was so
Yeah.
much sodium and killed the baby,
Oh gosh.
right? We don't put sodium in our baby's food. We give them the natural occurring sodium. There's already sodium in every plant on the planet. There's already magnesium, calcium, all of our beautiful salts that our body needs in the right quantity.
Mm.
It's only when us silly adults, we've been addicted to the processed refined food and then we can't taste the food anymore. So we have to keep adding the salt onto our food. Where in fact, most humans on the planet couldn't even access salt prior to like 1883.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. So
It
true.
was only rich people that could afford it, kings and queens and emperors and all of that. It was not on every table
It was
in
a sign of
Western
wealth,
countries.
wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely. What about pickling? Are we is pickling a good idea, or is that messing with the food too much?
Okay. So this is the same response to eating a full plant-based diet
Yeah.
versus having some sustainable meats, animal-based products. When you are healthy and free of chronic disease, your body can tolerate a little bit of meat products without fully clogging your arteries. Now I could hear the Joel Furmans and then Dr. Neil Bernards and the Dr. Kim Williams who's like, just do away with all meat products entirely. You don't need it. Now
Yeah.
I was born in Africa in a village where they eat meat a couple times a year. They are not eating meat every single day. And we found out in the Blue Zone communities, it's predominantly a plant-based diet, which allows people to live to be 100 years old,
Yeah.
chronic disease free. That should
Yeah.
be everyone's goal. Live to 100, chronic disease free. You're going to live a really, really happy life.
Yeah.
Um, and so with the meat, it's the same thing as any other product, that when you don't have a disease, your body can tolerate it in little amounts. And that's where moderation comes in. But when you already have a chronic disease, and that's 60% of any Western country is living with a chronic disease,
Mm.
there's no space in that if you want to reverse the chronic disease to incorporate these other products that are not the whole foods, that are not plant-based, because it just takes longer to reverse the disease if you're going to be able to do it at all. So you're better off just going organic, plant-based whole food, reverse your chronic disease, get your energy levels up, get your health up, get your inflammatory markers down, get rid of the chronic pain, and then you're loving life. And then when you do that, most people go, I don't really need these other things.
Yeah, it's such common sense you're talking here, Nikki. It really is. I love it. Absolutely love it.
So simple that it's almost too simple
Yeah.
sometimes for people to get it. Yeah.
And the other thing that you hear a lot of is when you go into a restaurant, it's like, have you got any allergies? And there are so many people
Oh,
now with this intolerance or that intolerance or this allergy or that allergy. Is it the
yeah.
same thing that once you go down that route, once you've changed your diet, then all of those things become unnecessary or,
A
not
hundred
unnecessary, but yeah.
percent. So a true allergy is one where if you were to have shellfish or a peanut and you go into anaphylactic shock right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a true allergy. Everything else is just an intolerance. And what it means is your body most likely has holes all throughout the intestinal lining so that protein particles are getting through into the bloodstream. Then the body goes, oh, there's an invader. I should go attack it. That's because your digestive system is not healed. People call it leaky gut. That's only one small part of the problem around chronic disease and allergies and sorry, food intolerances. So people need to start using the right language because everybody's using it like a crutch, like, oh, I
Mm.
can't eat that because I have an allergy. You don't have an allergy. You're just feeding yourself unhealthy food for too long, which has broken down your body
Yeah.
systems and body parts, which shows up as a food intolerance. And the reason I know this is because I get clients that can only eat 5 things by the time they come to me. Because if they eat a strawberry, grapefruit, oranges, um, celery, carrots, then their whole body swells up and they like break out in hives and rashes and it feels to them scary because they think
Yeah.
it's going to be anaphylactic shock, but it's just a food intolerance.
Yeah.
And within a few weeks of having them do our therapy, they can eat all the foods that they couldn't eat before. But you know what's funny? The foods that they can eat, the last remaining 5 foods that they can eat are the same foods that we feed babies when they're newborns. They can eat bananas. They can eat oh, like they could, most of them can barely eat oatmeal. They can eat like white rice, like plain rice. Whole
Mhm.
grain rice is too hard to digest, so that creates a food intolerance. They have
Wow.
no digestive capacity left. Once we heal the body, get rid of the chronic inflammation, the intestinal lining turns over every few days. So this is so fast to heal the digestive lining. And that's why they're able to eat all their foods that they were so-called allergic to before. But a lot of these people, I heard them use it for years, like, oh, I can't eat that. I'm allergic. Sorry. And I'm like, really, what they should be doing is going to plant-based whole food diet, reversing their inflammatory markers, healing their microbiome, healing all their organs, their cells, and then they can tolerate everything.
Yeah. Yeah. In small amounts, in moderation, as they say, if they
Well,
want to go down that route. I mean, I'm intolerant to pork. Weird. And I look back over my life and I can see how I've been ill a lot because of pork. I
mm,
love it. It tastes delicious.
right,
But I haven't eaten it since for about 14 years now.
right.
Because I know that my stomach just doesn't want it. So it's like, okay, I'm happy with that. I don't need it. It's not one
Oh,
of those things.
and I would be happy if you didn't ever reverse that intolerance to pork because I
Exactly.
don't think we
Yeah.
need it. Like it's not a chronic disease reversing food. So like let's do away with the foods that are not chronic disease reversing. Let's eat the foods that are, and then let's all start living life. Like everybody is
Yeah.
so like looking for the next diet, the next fad nutrition program that like they're spending. I had a family that spent $90,000 doing all the other treatments to
Whoa.
reverse their Lyme disease. And then they finally just did the program that they had asked me about 5 years earlier, which is the program that I teach, Eat Real to Heal. And then
Yeah.
they finally did it, and their daughter was out of the wheelchair. The son was no longer walking with a cane. All their neurological symptoms were gone, their rashes, their everything. And she came and worked for us. The daughter who was in the wheelchair, she walked into our cafe and applied for a job and ended up working for us.
Ah, I
So
love
people are
that.
spending all of this money and also so much time. Like I train physicians and naturopaths and chiropractors and pharmacists and doctors of all kinds, and they often say like the reason they did our training is they don't know how to reverse a chronic disease. Meanwhile, they're charging people through the wazoo. Like has anybody ever gone to a naturopath's office and just walked out with your $120 fee? No, it's usually like $700 in vitamins and supplements and homeopathy and herbs, but they still have their chronic disease for like 2, 3, 4 years. If
Yeah.
it's taking you more than a few months to reverse your chronic disease, you're not on the right program.
Yeah.
I can tell you that because your
Yeah.
body heals so fast when you turn to organic plant-based whole food as medicine. So stop
Yeah.
wasting your money and
It's
time.
so do you find anybody kind of is uh what's the word, myth busting? Are they trying to put you down and saying what you're talking about is a load of rubbish? Because it's so simple what you're saying and it makes such sense. But at the end of the day, if everybody ate the way that you talk to us about, one, the pharmacies, the chemical companies that make all the drugs, they're going to be in trouble. The doctors are going to be in trouble. That everybody is going to be able to heal themselves, and
Mhm.
there must be people that are like, she's crazy. Have you struggled with
Yeah.
publicity that's negative?
Yeah, I would say I did 20 years ago when I started doing this. For sure, people were like, how come my doctor doesn't know this? That was the number one question. Well, if this was real science, my doctor would have told me. So that's when I had to like slow down and say, okay, well, your doctor's not trained. Like, here's the studies and the research that show doctors receive 1 to 4 hours of nutrition training. So your doctors, it would be like asking your plumber to do your electrical work.
Yeah,
That's what going to the doctors is like. But in the last 20 years, the field of lifestyle medicine has increased tremendously.
right,
We've had, I think, oh my gosh, 80,000 studies. I think it's 80,000 studies published just in the last few years on plant-based diets
right.
for reversing chronic disease and
Sure.
healing the body. So, but we had that knowledge for thousands of years because any indigenous culture, like you look at the blue zones, right? The majority of indigenous cultures ate plant-based and they could only access meat when they hunted for it. It's
Yeah,
very labor intensive. You have to expend a lot of energy and it's very dangerous. So everybody thinks that, for example, indigenous cultures around the world just ate meat. Like but the reason that's a myth, and that's because we don't see around the cave sites and around different, First Nation sites. Like the bones will remain in those sites. So
Mm.
according to the anthropologists who, and the geologists who are looking, they're going to be like, oh, they were must have been meat eaters. But if they were eating plants, they're pooping out the seeds and the greens and everything that doesn't remain as a fossil for us to see. So
Yeah.
they actually ate predominantly grains and wild squashes and wild potatoes. And we see this if you actually look in the historical books around nutrition and diet, what people ate. They didn't eat like loads of meat like the way everybody thinks.
Yeah.
So, and in certain parts of the world, yes, but in the area, in like, for example, in northern Canada, the Inuit, they eat a lot of animal-based fats and meats because it's the tundra. They can't get access to the CLGs and the greens only a few months of the year. But they also die at 50% higher rates of stroke, and they die 10 years earlier
Wow.
than average Canadian population. So that's saying something. So if you're okay dying 10 years earlier and with a 50% higher chance of stroke, go eat all the meat you want. Okay, like so, so anyway, times have changed with
Thank
lifestyle
goodness.
medicine.
Yeah.
Physicians now being able to take a training in this, and there's so many physicians now popping up that have studied this. Unfortunately, in lifestyle medicine, they focus really on food. I focus on four different components with our therapy: food, supplements. And
Mm.
I know people hate taking their supplements, but the problem is there's 90,000 different supplements on the market, and most people are not taking the right ones.
Yeah.
They're spending all their money on garbage supplements, where ours are made in a pharmacy, not mine. We get them from a compounding pharmacy, and there's nine. And then our job is to get you down to maybe three or four or five. And your grandmother will take them, your grandfather, your children. So it's the thing that's the nutrients you can't get through the food that we
Right.
need in high abundance to reverse the chronic disease. But
Yeah.
once you've reversed it, you don't need them. How nice would that be to just have five supplements in your cupboard? That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, and then we focus on getting additional nutrients into your diet because once you have the chronic disease, you'll never be able to, it's really difficult to eat enough food to reverse your chronic disease quickly. So, we want to flood your body with nutrients to heal the cells and heal the body and flush the toxins out. And we do that through adding vegetable juices, cold
Right.
pressed vegetable juices on top of your three meals a day and your desserts and all the other yummy snacks you can eat all day long. So you have food, you have the supplements, you have the juicing, and then we have a detox protocol. When you do those things, four things together, it's amazing how fast your body heals.
Mm. And presumably you find the ideal balance of weight that you're supposed to be rather than constantly worrying about, does my bum look big in these jeans? You get to be the size that you're supposed to be, don't you?
Well, that's the most beautiful thing about this is that if I take somebody who's 200 pounds overweight, let's say, and I take somebody who's 60 pounds underweight, and this has happened. I had a woman who checked herself out of a psychiatric ward because they thought she was anorexic. She had an autoimmune disorder, so she wasn't able to absorb nutrients. So they were force feeding her burgers and pizza and pasta. And meanwhile, she was like had food intolerance to all of it. So she's just breaking out in rashes. They're
Oh,
they're thinking
that's,
she has an eating disorder because she was 79 pounds.
oh,
Okay. And 5'6". She was skin and bone. She looked like a skeleton when she walked into our wellness center. So then I have her, and then I have another individual who's 200 pounds overweight. They're basically eating the same amount of food, three meals a day, the juices, doing the
mhm,
detox, doing everything identical. Well, the person who's overweight after 3 months, 4 months, loses a significant amount of weight and and then they lose a little bit more weight over time. But that's because they're detoxing. Your body hangs on to so much fat
yeah,
when your body is flooded with waste that it can't get out. So it'll store it in the fat stores.
mm,
So as we're detoxing and nutrifying, your body's flushing everything. It doesn't have the need for these big fat molecules. And so that's why you lose weight. The person who's underweight finally gets to heal their cells, and their cells can absorb the nutrients finally, and then they can put weight on. They're
mm,
eating the same amount of calories in a day.
yeah,
So it's not a caloric. This is a big myth. The whole caloric myth, the whole exercise myth, the whole you cannot exercise your way out of a bad diet. And
no,
it's why so many people they think they can, and they're still eating all of these horrific processed refined foods. They're afraid to eat an apple because it's high in sugar. But I'm like, that apple is going to actually heal you so you can lose the weight.
Sheesh. Have you written recipe books? apart from the book that you've, the Real to Heal?
Yeah, so we do have a salad dressing recipe book because I can tell you the salad dressings that you make to put on the beautiful vegetables and whole grains and legumes, that's what makes the food so delicious.
Yeah.
Plus, it's medicine, the salad dressings. And I can give you, give you a link so anybody listening to this podcast can download the salad dressing book. I do want to create a recipe book. Not now because we're building the hotel, but we definitely want to have one. So we started one many years ago, but we just haven't finished it. So we will.
I want that. I want that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also find out those recipes. Amazing. So if somebody wants to come along to the hotel when it's ready, when
Yeah.
are you going to be first taking guests? Do you know roughly?
Yeah, we hope to have shovels in the ground. So we're just in the beginning of our fundraising project, our fundraising campaign. So we are going to have a community fundraiser because right now it's interesting. Unless you're the Fairmonts or the Marriotts or the Hiltons of the world, where are you going to get $70 million to build a hotel? Because it's a $70 million project.
Gosh.
And being, someone who's, I've had, many successful small businesses, but, the banks, it's a startup basically. So no banks are going to fund a startup. You have to already be in operation, but who has $70 million in their back pocket?
Yeah.
So we are partnering with the local organizations. We're doing a community fundraiser just to get the initial campaign. We just found a bank that is willing to give us a construction mortgage, which is very exciting. If we raise 50% down payment, so that means we still have to raise 35 million. So we're going out to investors. If you know of any venture capitalists out there and angel investors that want to be part of this project, we plan on having 50 hotels opening up because really when people have a chronic disease, it's hard for them to get on a plane and come to a center. Like the traveling is very hard. So really we need a center like this, a hotel like this in every province, in every state, in every community. And so, yeah, so we're going to start off with that, but we feel very confident. I've raised funds in the millions for other organizations. So I'm pretty sure we could do this for us ourselves as well. So that's what's next. We have one of the world's best architects lined up. He builds buildings that heal. So buildings can be very toxic for humans. He builds buildings that heal through the design of the architecture, as well as the construction materials. So we have him ready to go. And when we raise the funds, shovels in the ground in September, hopefully. That's what we're aiming for. And then it's about a 2.5 year build.
Wow, so exciting. So
Yeah.
exciting. I think if anybody knows Paul McCartney out there, I know he's a very committed vegetarian, vegan. I'm sure he would have a few bits of spare cash that he could send your way. That would be
Oh, please. We could get everybody to just send Paul McCartney a message saying
Yeah.
you need to check out this hotel project. And yeah, I bet you he would come on board. That's all we need.
Yeah, that's the name and the face, and then you're off and you're done.
Exactly.
If people want to get in touch with you and find out more, if they've got a chronic disease and they're just like, I need to talk to this woman, what's the best way of getting in touch with you, or at least accessing some of the information that you can share?
Yes. So if you are suffering from a chronic disease and you want to get off your medications, reverse your disease, please reach out to me at Richer Health, Richer health.ca. And so I'm pretty sure the website will be in the show notes. And then if you have a mood disorder, depression, anxiety, PTSD, and you would like to learn how your doctor can wean you off your meds and you come through and do a psychedelic therapy, then that's through Kulandira, KULANDIRA.com. That means to receive in Chichewa, which is my native language. And so you can go there and book a free appointment with me, and I will support you with all the information that you need to be able to reverse your depression, anxiety, PTSD, and do that deep, deep work that's really powerful.
Wow, that's good to know. Thank you. Listen, Nikki, it's been such a joy finding out. One, I'm excited for the future of what's happening for you and also what you are creating for the world that's out there. Now, a lot of people are going to be sitting here listening, going, yeah, I know that stuff. That's great. But are they doing anything about it? And are they actually changing their diet, or have they changed their family's diet? So it'd be really good if that you want to write in the comments or just get in touch with either of us directly to say, this is what you do, or this is how you've experienced it, or even if you do have a chronic illness, to be able to get in touch with Nikki at Richer Health so that you can find a way forward, because we get to that point where you've tried everything else and you just don't know what the next step is. And sometimes the next step can be a lot simpler than you realize.
Yeah.
And having experienced cooking in the way that your book does, what's it called again, your book?
Eat Real to Heal.
Eat Real to Heal, available on Amazon and other good bookshops. Yeah, get that book if you're going to do anything else, and just read how simple it is to cook low and slow, and how your food will taste beautiful, rather than the old steaming or boiling or doing all the things that we're used to doing, or we've been taught to do in the past. Thank you so much, Nikki. I've been absolute joy talking to you again. I wish you every success in the future, and hopefully Collaboration Global will be part of your journey going forward. We're going to watch very carefully and see how we can help.
Thank you.
Okay.
Amazing, amazing. And one thing I'll just add is that our community campaign that's going out, you can actually pre-book your hotel stays now. So you'll get first pick of rooms at the hotel the day we open, and you can come at any time and immerse yourself directly in learning how to reverse your chronic disease. So that's a beautiful way to support us and get this project up and running sooner than later.
Awesome. That's good to know. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate
Thanks, Jill.
it.
A pleasure.
Thank you.